But before that happens, we have another PvP. The PvPs, that is, don't stop coming. Don't stop coming. Oof. Meanwhile, I actually don't know. I don't know. But here we go, spawning in the top left hand corner of Cosmic Sapphire ESL. We have the Canadian Protoss player himself representing Team Super. It is TriGGeR. And spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Cosmic Sapphire ESL, we have the American Protoss player, also hailing from the land of China, representing Alpha X. It is Asuna. I know the logos were wrong. I had very little time to set this up, okay? Oh god. But yes, the PvPs continue. Quickly looking at the brackets. We do still have Namshar as the lone Zerg player here. But unfortunately, if you're a Terran fan, all the Terrans have been eliminated. Future and Vindicta were not a part of this tournament. Feels bad, man. But yo, a massive shout out to Zombie Grub in the chat. Thank you so much. I do know that she, is she still in Korea? No, I think she recently came back. But thank you so much for the raid. We really appreciate it. Massive shout out to Zombie Grub. She was one of the other many casters covering TeamLiquid StarLeague, covering this North American qualifier. Yeah, thank you so much for the raid. I really appreciate it, and I hope everyone is enjoying themselves. Ooh, again, we just were able to cover NEEB qualifying for TSL, but there is a second qualifying spot here in this qualifier. We are now in the lower brackets, and these players are fighting their heart out to face the winner of Namshar versus Estrella. Sorry, Namshar versus Riser. Estrella is waiting all the way in the last qualifying match. He's got some time. He's got some time. He's chilling. He's chilling. Meanwhile, so far in this PvP, pretty standard openers. We do see 2 gateways thrown down on top of the ramps. Do see the initial units being 2 stalkers for Asuna. TriGGeR going for 2 adepts on his side of the map instead. So TriGGeR looking to be a little bit more aggressive here. Of course, both players have their eyes on their opponents. You know, we've got pylons being thrown down, probes chilling as well, just to make sure they know what the initial units are. It's PvP. That's what we expect. I feel a little bit spoiled. For the people that were tuning into NEEB versus Estrella, I feel spoiled because if you remember, the last time we were on this map, Estrella went for the gold base. It was wild. Feels bad, man. I wish we got more of that. I wish we got to see that succeed, to be honest. Again, I highly recommend checking out the VODs. Zombie Grub was also covering that series as well and covering that game. Meanwhile, we do see the 2 adepts coming across the map. Asuna did know that 2 adepts were coming, so he was already ready and waiting with his stalkers. Forces a bit of a premature shade. Because of that, Asuna has plenty of time to respond and is ready here with his probe. The adepts are not going to find a way in. Meanwhile, TriGGeR, he only committed to 2 adepts, not like 4 or even 6. He didn't double down on the aggression, so again, he's just looking to be a little bit annoying here, looking to maybe try to find a way in. And yo, with his unit advantage, he can actually try and take this fight. He will lose 1 stalker as the adepts are a little bit out of position, and oh my god, Asuna is not stopping. By the way, he throws down a proxy pylon to reinforce. He now has the stalker advantage. He's oh my god, he's got to keep on pushing. The next is going to finish up. Oh, barely enough energy for an overcharge. Oh, and there we have it. With the overcharge, TriGGeR is going to hold on to his natural. But Asuna, he is not done. He's only working with 2 gateways, so he can't be overly aggressive, but he's done a decent job at keeping his stalkers alive. Looking at the unit's loss tab, he hasn't lost a single unit yet. And you know what? The overcharge has run out. He's diving on top of these stalkers one after the other. They are falling here for TriGGeR, and this is getting to be a little bit too much. Boys are being pulled, and they're all going to go down across the map. TriGGeR, he's hoping and praying that maybe these adepts can deal some equalizing damage across the map. Sentry is going to be able to hold the line here, but the pylon is going to go down, and that's going to depower the gateways. TriGGeR has only a single gateway here, only 1 gateway for production across the map. The adepts are doing a little bit of damage. They're forcing some lost mining time. Yo, Asuna was a little bit late there with his pylon, and because of that, the adepts are going to be dealing even more damage. Meanwhile, Asuna is breaking into the main base. The force fields are looking pretty good, and they are slowing him down. But again, with only a single gateway, there is no way that TriGGeR can hold this. GG gets called, and Asuna takes game number 1. Oh my god. Ay, ay, ay. And mate, you know, sometimes that's the way that PvP goes. Despite the fact that, let's be honest, TriGGeR is the favorite here, I think I'm always gonna remember, maybe I'm misremembering, I want to say that Asuna, I know Maples beat Neeb, but did Asuna beat Neeb as well in DreamHack? I know Asuna is like a wild card. He's not really too well known, and as an overall well-rounded player, he is kind of weaker compared to these others. But when it comes to PvP, he can take it to anyone, as we saw here. He's one game away from knocking TriGGeR out. TriGGeR, who's one of the favorites here. You know, TriGGeR alongside Estrella, alongside Neeb. These are the kind of players that we expect to see advance on and qualify for TSL. But suddenly, maybe Asuna. You never know, man. You never know. Oh god, but that was kind of like a cascading effect there. It was a real shame that TriGGeR, his units were a little bit mistimed. We saw TriGGeR, despite having a bit of a numbers advantage, lose one Stalker early on, and then everything snowballed from there. That was the first domino to fall, and then they kept on falling. It all crumbled here for our Canadian Protoss. But speaking of, spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Tropical Sacrifice ESL, we have that Canadian Protoss player currently down in this series, representing Team Super. His tournament life is on the line. It is TriGGeR. And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Tropical Sacrifice ESL, we have his opponent, the Chinese Protoss player currently residing and studying in the land of the Americas, representing Alpha X. It is Asuna. One game away from knocking out TriGGeR, and he's going for the proxy. Oh my, let's go. Oh my god, and TriGGeR has not seen this, by the way. His probe is still moving out across the map. I mean, by the time he does, he's going to realize something is amiss. The pylon is missing, the gateways are missing, but does it even matter because we have proxy 2 gate here across the map? And TriGGeR, so far, now he knows. He knows something is wrong. He can get eyes on the gases and realize, okay, this shouldn't be a proxy robo or anything like that. We do see that TriGGeR is going for a low ground wall. It makes sense because we have the ramp. That's kind of what we expect here. TriGGeR throws down a defensive forge to throw down some cannons. You love to see it. Immediately croning out that zealot. Again, he recognizes that something is wrong. He's getting ready for this, and the gateways for Asuna only just now finishing up. Bearing in mind that there is no cyber core here with this gases being mined, but zealots are on the way for Asuna. Is this going to be enough? Can he break on through before too many cannons get thrown down, before the site defense is ready here for TriGGeR, as TriGGeR fully walls off? I love it. TriGGeR even gas steals. We know that, again, Asuna is stuck on one basis. The gas matters that much more, and taking the gas here in the main is huge. The Zealot's going to start chipping away at this, but the first cannon is already on the way. It's going to finish up in time to help deal with these Zealots. Oh. And I don't know if Asuna can really break on through, I'll be honest. Like, he's got 2 more Zealots on the way. Sure, Copium. Cybercore finishes up so we can start making some Stalkers as well. Oh, God. But I love this, the little Zealot, the Zealot that could. TriGGeR, he comes across the map. There's nothing here at home to defend. We do have a shield battery on the way, and that will help. But again, this Zealot is going to wreak so much havoc as long as it doesn't get surrounded. Meanwhile, here we go. The 4 Zealots are going to try and break on through. They do focus on this gateway, and it looks like they can get the gateway just before the adept finishes. And just like that, oh my god, we have a probe in the main! I apologize, I did miss this. I was a little bit too distracted by the gas steal. If anyone knows me, we all know that I love gas stealing. We do see a full surround here with the help of the shield battery. The Zealot is eventually going to go down, but with the gateway in the main base and with Warp Prism finishing, with the Warp Gate finishing up. Oh my god, Asuna. Oh wait, but TriGGeR sees the pylon. Looking at the vision of TriGGeR, he has seen the pylon. He should be aware that something is going wrong. Hopefully he does realize what's happening, as right now he's just focusing on cannons at the wall. He hasn't thrown down anything defensively. There we go, we do have 1 pylon. We do need a shield battery or something. Again, he only has 1 gateway for production right now. Meanwhile, speaking of having 1 gateway for production, an adept gets across the map as well. TriGGeR is doing such a great job at harassing across the map. Asuna has to send a Stalker back home. Ay, ay, ay. This is not what we want to be seeing here. Meanwhile, we have a 2nd gate in the main and a shield battery. What is happening? TriGGeR still hasn't noticed. Like, again, looking at his vision, he has seen this. but it hasn't registered for him. Or it feels that way anyway. And here we go, the Adepts warp in. There's no shield battery, there's nothing here. The economy is in shambles for TriGGeR. There is an Immortal on the way, and the Immortal can definitely be a game changer here if it gets out. Meanwhile, the Adepts, they dive on top of the Stalker. It looks like they can focus it down. A couple more volleys, and is it going to be enough? One of us. The Stalker does fall. Meanwhile, with a couple Stalkers, can he break through the Immortal? The Immortal comes out. Oh my god. The shield does get triggered. We have a shield battery, but it's already out of energy. Oh my god, but the Immortal is taking a lot of hits. A couple more volleys from these Stalkers, and it's going to be it. Oh, one of us. And he gets it. The Immortal goes down. But he doesn't have enough momentum. It looks like Asuna is being cleaned up here in the main base. Meanwhile, the rest of the army still can't break through the defenses of TriGGeR. It looks like TriGGeR is holding, and GG gets called. TriGGeR takes game number 2. Ay. What are we watching? This is what we're used to. This is some quality North American PvP, all right? None of this Neeb versus Destroyer, long macro games, 15 plus minutes. Nah, mate. Oh, God. We're back. This is what we're used to. 5 minutes. That's all we need. GG, well played. We are going to the ace match. I love what Asuna was able to do there, but at the same time, TriGGeR had a really good response. Again, denying the gases meant that Asuna didn't really have too much momentum. He was very limited with how many Stalkers he could warp in, with how many Adepts he could warp in as well. Very smart move there by TriGGeR, and even going for that forge response as well. I think there are some players who would maybe panic and maybe not think about that, but we had a full wall off and it was never broken. The natural base was never compromised there for TriGGeR. Really well done, really nice response. And despite the fact that the proxy did get up in the main base of TriGGeR, it didn't even matter. Oh, barely. And now we get into the ace match. And I think we all have to wonder to ourselves, as I just realized I never even paid out the predictions. My apologies. I have just been a little bit distracted. I'm solo casting, and I'm not used to solo casting. Let's be real here. Oh, I will pay out those predictions. Oh boy, for that last qualifying match. And here we go. We're getting into game number 3, and spawning in the top right hand corner of Data C ESL, we have the Canadian Protoss player himself representing Team Super. Ooh, it is TriGGeR. With a beautiful defense against the Proxy 2 gate, and spawning in the bottom left hand corner. Ooh. In the bottom left-hand corner of Data C ESL, we have the other Protoss player, the Purple Protoss, representing Alpha X. It is Asuna. Studying in the land of America. I believe. It could be Canada, I'm not sure. His Wikipedia page says North America, so it could be either one. Oh god, but here we go, and surprisingly, we have I was gonna say a relatively standard opener. This probe looking a little bit sus here in the bottom right hand corner of the map. So things are looking pretty normal so far. Both players are going for their low ground walls. I mean, again, it's Data C. We have the ramp that we can use defensively, so we can be a little bit greedier. We can go for a faster nexus in PvP. And they're both going to be annoying each other, and I feel like Asuna has to sell a story right now, because we can see he wants to go for a proxy Stargate. I imagine this is a proxy Stargate. He needs to make it look as if he wants to expand, and so far he's doing a great job. We do see a Zealot on the way here to deal with the pylon if a pylon ever gets thrown down. Everything is looking pretty normal so far. The thing that isn't normal is that Asuna doesn't have a probe across the map. And because of that, TriGGeR is able to expand. He's able to get his nexus up and running. And that's a little bit weird. Like, that's not really what we expect to see here. Zealot moves out across the map as well. This should also be a little bit of a tell. Alarm bells are going to be ringing here for TriGGeR once he gets down here towards the low ground. And he's like, hold on, your Zealot isn't even here. Clearly, you don't care about expanding. Clearly, you don't care about your nexus. Oh boy. Meanwhile, here we go. Stargate is on the way. Again, I do feel like this is a little bit too obvious for Asuna, and TriGGeR can kind of piece all this together. Stalker is now on the way. We do have a pylon in the main base if we want to see a shield battery. But again, despite the fact that something is amiss here, TriGGeR doesn't know that it's a Stargate specifically. Zealot gets across the map and TriGGeR throws down a shield battery. Yeah, he's probably thinking, oh, is it a proxy robo to hit my front door? Is it more proxy gateways? Like, what could it be? He knows that he has to be defensive. And there we go, shield battery even in the main base, but the shield battery, ugh. Is it going to be done in time? It looks like it will. Oracle only just now starting. TriGGeR dotting his I's, crossing his T's. He knows something is wrong, so he's just turtling up. And Asuna isn't going to find too much success here. He's expanding back at home. It's not like a one base all in or anything like that. Like, he can transition. It's possible that he may just bank up 2 oracles, but no, he's not too worried about that. He just goes in with his first one, and he can still go for a stasis trap. Oh no! Instead of going for a stasis, he activates his pulsar beam over the gas mining drones as well. He deals 0 damage, gets 1 probe, I guess, in the end. But that was not ideal. That is not what we wanted here from Asuna. He does have a second Oracle on the way, so he can... There's still potential to deal some damage. He can always one-shot workers with 2 Oracles, but he already showed his hand, and... Yeah, 1 probe. We need more than that. Feels bad, man. Feels bad. Asuna has to try and pivot away and transition to something else. Do you see a second gateway being thrown down, a Twilight Council as well? Things are looking relatively standard here. I wouldn't be surprised if Asuna throws down a 3rd gateway. Like, Asuna isn't known for his macro. Let's be honest. He isn't known for his late game either. So I imagine he's going to transition into a different kind of 2-base all-in, but we'll see. We'll see. Meanwhile, I appreciate this. Asuna, now with 2 oracles, doesn't go straight into the main. I mean, TriGGeR, he is ready and waiting with his stalkers because this is the obvious attack location. Instead, he goes towards the natural base, but there are stalkers waiting here as well. Again, TriGGeR, his defenses are just too damn good. And behind this is kind of what I assumed would happen. Asuna is going for a forge. He's going to be going for +1. He has 3 gateways in total. That's a decent amount of gates. Oh, same can be said here for TriGGeR though. They're both so far keeping up with each other. And Asuna is setting himself up with a proxy pylon. Yeah, I think Stalkers is all he wants. There's the 4th gateway, so it's going to be 4 gate blink Stalker here from Asuna. Maybe even 5 gates if he throws down another gateway across the map. Regardless, very committed. I don't know if I like +1 though, because +1 is going to delay this push. Obviously, he wants to hit with his upgrade, but it's going to give TriGGeR plenty of time to get his own defenses up and running. We do see both players setting themselves up for a bit of an expansion. Ooh, stasis trap goes off, but 1 oracle still gets picked off here from Asuna. A bit of a feels bad, man. There is that proxy gateway here from Asuna, so yeah, 5 gates in total. Or even more than that, actually. Jesus Christ. And yeah, we'll see if he can even get them up and running. I'm a little bit concerned here because TriGGeR is across the map and we actually don't have anything to defend. Asuna was in the middle of moving out. Oh no. Okay, we do have a warping at home and it looks like Asuna does have enough forces to defend. In the end, how many gates do we have in total? We have 7 gateways and +1 is going to finish. So here we go. Can Asuna overwhelm? Can TriGGeR defend? This is a good thing for TriGGeR though. They are fighting here in the middle of the map and Asuna, he's losing a lot of momentum. He cannot afford to lose stalkers like this. The whole point is to like eventually overwhelm your opponent and build up that stalker count, but that's just not happening. Forces a cancel here at the 3rd base. Again, TriGGeR just out controlling his opponent a little bit. Oracle tries to go in, but TriGGeR even had enough at home to defend at the same time. And again, we have 7 gates compared to the 3. Like, Asuna, the longer this goes on, the better it is for TriGGeR. He's got to go sooner rather than later. He still has that reinforcement point across the map. But yeah, we'll see if it's too late. Thankfully for Asuna, there is no shield battery here at the 3rd. So this 3rd is looking a little bit vulnerable. Not gonna lie, there is still an opportunity here for Asuna to deal damage. Here we go, he's catching up in the supply, is pushing up the ramp. Shield batteries are on the way, but they're not ready yet. He's gonna try and focus down as many of these stalkers as possible, but the blink micro from TriGGeR is pretty damn good, and he is surviving long enough for all these shield batteries to finish up. 3 shield batteries are on the way. Boys are being pulled. TriGGeR can afford to lose workers. He is up over 10 probes, and he's done it. He lived long enough for the shield batteries to finish. He has overcharge, he has immortals. Doesn't matter that he is down in the worker count. Doesn't matter that he's down in the gateway count either. Again, I feel like Asuna, he had a timing, he had a window, and that window, it's closing, if not closed already. He's still going to try and force his way up the ramp. He's going to try and focus down the immortal. He will get the immortal. He blinks on board, and he's going to get the overcharged shield battery as well. Is this going to be enough? Boys are being forced offline. We have a couple more stalkers on the way. These are slow warpins, by the way, but even if they're slow, they're fast enough. Oh god, just barely fast enough in the end. Stasis trap goes off, but only on 2 stalkers. Again, Asuna doesn't have a third behind this. Oh. And he is making a little bit of room here. He is finding some headway, but GG gets called. He knows that the game has gone on for far too long. TriGGeR takes game number 3. Oh. And TriGGeR will move on to the lower bracket finals. Or to the next round. GG. Oh, I was a little bit worried after game 1, and I was even worried in game number 2 as well, but I guess I had nothing to be worried about. TriGGeR will still move on. He is still the favorite. There is no upset here. Oh, and he's going to be facing the winner of Riser versus Namshar. Quickly checking the brackets. We can all have a look together. Exclamation mark B in the chat if you guys want to have a look at the bracket yourselves. But we can see here, as I move this over, there we go. We can see Riser did 2-0 Namshar. With that, F's in the chat. Namshar was the last Zerg player in the entire tournament. So now there are only Protoss players remaining, and TriGGeR moves on to face Riser.